Rev up your engines! Okay, car batteries wear out. You gotta replace them. How do you know whether you should use newer technology or stick with old, tried and true, trusted lead acid technology? Now, car batteries start your car. It takes a lot of energy to start your car. They need to be able to discharge quickly and have a lot of power to crank your engine. Now, conventional batteries have one big disadvantage. They can only be charged and recharged so many times, then they just flat wear out. Consequently, the more times you start your car and turn it off, start your car and turn it off, your battery will wear out faster. Now, there is a battery that can handle that. The ability to be charged and recharged many times. This is a lithium iron phosphate battery. If you keep it at over 20% charge, only use 80% at a time, these things can be charged up to 5,000 times over. And a lead acid battery won't last that many recharge cycles. It's just the way they are. Although they made this kind of look like a car battery, lithium iron phosphate battery, it really isn't a car battery. It is a deep cycle rechargeable battery, but you can see these are just regular bolts that go in here. You can't connect a regular battery terminal like this to it for a big reason. These lithium iron phosphate, not lithium ion, lithium iron phosphate batteries are not made for giant voltage surges needed to start an internal combustion engine. You might say, well, wait a second. Elon Musk said the Teslas are going to start using iron phosphate batteries. And that's true, but he's using them in Tesla. They're electric cars. They do not have to start a gasoline or diesel motor. They're not 12 volts. They put them together to build up higher voltage. The higher voltage can run an electric motor, no problem. And although you could actually hook this up to a car, I have, and if your car's in excellent shape, it'll start your car and run and drive it around. But if you got some kind of a problem and the car has to crank too long or the battery gets too cold, then it won't start a gasoline engine. My next door neighbor just came by. He's a professional bass fisherman, and he's got 3 of these in his bass boat. He does use it to start the motor, and it's a brand new boat. You know, it's a few months old, so it starts up. But he mainly uses these to run his trolling motors, and they're great for electronics. He said not only does the thing go almost twice as much, it'll troll at 5 miles an hour, and it used to only do 3, but it lasts 3 times as long trolling it. These are made for electronics, not really for internal combustion engines. Now, he does use it to start the boat. It's an outboard, but he also has a trickle charger on it the whole time, so it's fully charged all the way. They're not made for internal combustion engines, and I'll show you another example why. It's the economy of scale, okay? This came out of my motorcycle. I got this to start a motorcycle. It's also a lithium iron phosphate, and you can see it's a whopping 10 to 14 ampere hours. Well, this is 100 ampere hours. And this tiny little baby was almost $100. The bigger they get, the more they cost. I've seen guys put big ones of these, like in drag cars. They're over $1,000, $1,500 for ones that are really high ampere hours. Price is a big negative thing. They do way less, there's no arguing that. But, say this one shows, do you have an AGM or regular flooded battery, or do you have a lithium battery? You need one that can charge a lithium battery. And let's face it, your car's alternator was designed to charge a lead acid type battery, not a lithium iron phosphate battery. It will not charge correctly in a car. It wasn't made for charging these. And there's even another disadvantage, which is kind of making me wonder why old Elon's using them in his Model 3s. They don't work that good in the cold. This particular one, they know it, because it's a storage battery, and they even tell you, there's a lot of electronics inside here, and they tell you, it gets below 32 degrees, this baby has a built-in heater to keep it warm so it'll operate. Well, guess what? If it's using an internal heater to heat itself up, it's going to use battery power up. So that's wasteful too. So basically, using them even in electric cars, it's a cheaper way. They are much more energy dense than a lead acid battery, and they have pure electricity. They can be recharged many more times. But they're not as energy dense as lithium ion batteries are. But the lithium ion batteries cost more money to make. That's why old Elon is switching to the cheaper ones. Plus, they don't need all the many precious metals as the lithium ion do, and that's why they use them. It's a cheap thing. It's not a good thing. If you want an electric car, you'd really want the best batteries. And for electric cars, lithium iron phosphate is actually a step backwards. They don't last as long. They're less energy dense. They don't work as well in the cold weather. They're good storage batteries. That's what they're for. As you can see with this IMR's foldable solar panel, you can hook the solar panel up to these lithium iron phosphate batteries, and they're great. Tried it in the backyard. Hey, it's a great storage battery. These particular ones are designed a maximum of 48 volts, so you can hook 4 of them up together to create 48 volts. They're very good with solar panels and stuff like that, but they are not made for putting in your car. You can see the solar panel. I got a gauge on it here. Hey, it's charging it with 13.34 volts. Mind you, this is a relatively small solar panel and a relatively large battery. It would take an awful long time to charge it from scratch, but if it's something you don't use that much, you can leave the solar panel up and just have it charging. Which is another reason this is a storage battery and not a battery for starting your car. These things, they charge really slow. Car alternators, on the other hand, charge relatively fast. Those batteries aren't made for it. Your lead acid battery is. But if you're looking for batteries for your trolling motor, for fishing, you can't beat these things. But going back to your car, batteries eventually, they just wear out. They can only cycle so many times. Unfortunately, they can't cycle the 5,000 times that one of those lithium iron phosphate batteries can. So when they wear out, you gotta get one. So what should you buy? Well, basically you should buy the battery your car was designed for. And there's been a lot of changes lately, so here's what you need to know. My battery tester, and you gotta know what kind of battery you have. Do you have a regular flooded like this, plain old lead acid? Or do you have an AGM flat plate, which is absorbed glass mat? Some modern cars have that, and you got to replace it with one if you want it to last as long as possible. Or do you have an absorbed glass mat spiral battery, like those Optima batteries? Do you have a gel battery that instead of liquid has gel electrolyte? Or do you have an EFB battery, which is a special type of battery that's a flooded battery, but it's an extended life one? What you want to find is the best price battery that's the type of battery your car came with. Do not switch them. I've had people who didn't want to spend for an absorbed glass mat battery, so they put a regular battery. They go to AutoZone or Walmart, put in a regular battery, and guess what? The things didn't last 30-40% as long as the original ones did. Now, it's not like they're going to blow up or anything. They're 12-volt batteries. I mean, if you're selling a car, you don't care. You just buy the cheapest battery you can to start it up so you can sell it. That isn't going to make any difference. But if it's your car and you're cheap like me and you want to keep your car forever, you want to keep it with the technology that your particular car was built for. Toyota Matrix, the alternator was built to charge a regular flooded lead acid battery. So that's what I got in there. It's still got 86% of its life left. Now, if your battery is going out, don't think, oh, I'll just wait until it doesn't start the car and goes out completely. No, that's a bad move, because modern cars, the battery runs everything, starts the car, runs all the electronics. If it goes below a certain parameter of voltage, it can damage your ignition system, your fuel injection system. Your alternator will have to work too hard. It'll burn itself out faster. Change a battery sooner than later when you know it's bad. Now, if you've been watching me any length of time, you know batteries are like eggs. They go bad over time. So when you do buy a battery, make sure it's a month or less old. In this case, this battery was made in 01/21, and I put it in January 2021. Because unlike these lithium iron phosphate batteries, which can sit forever and then just do their thing, the military's used them for quite some time. They got them remote locations. They want to go in a shack, turn something on, and it works. They are great for that. I had one in the trunk of my car. It sat there a year and a half, and I checked it, and it was still at like 99% charged. Lead acid batteries, on the other hand, as soon as they're built and full of acid, start to deteriorate. And when they sit there unused, they start to discharge all by themselves. And with modern cars, a lot of electronics, they drain a little micro bits at a time, but if you have a car sitting for months, it's usually enough to drain the battery so the car won't even start. Most guys are going to do that. They'll disconnect one of the battery terminals or put a trickle charger on the battery so it'll store that way. They're not made for non-use. So when you buy one, you don't want to buy one that's been sitting in the store for 3, 4, 5, 6 months, because it's probably lost over 50% of its lifespan. They're not made to fully discharge. The lithium iron phosphates, you can fully discharge them, and they still take 3,000 charges then, and if you don't go under 20%, they'll recharge like 5,000 times. Lead acid batteries can only handle it a few times, and then they're kaput. So keep that in mind when your car needs a battery. Buy a fresh one, someplace that sells a lot of them, has the dates, and if they don't show you the dates or they won't explain it, leave and go somewhere else. So now you know a lot more about car batteries, so you can save money, not get ripped off. And even though modern technology is sometimes tempting, in this case, don't put the iron phosphate battery in your car. They weren't made for that. Unless you buy a really, really, really expensive one. Who's going to spend $1,600 for a car battery? So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.